It was never supposed to become a legend. At first, it was just a road, a forgotten stretch of asphalt cutting through a dense forest, somewhere far from the noise of the city, a place people only used when they had no other option, a shortcut. That's what they called it, County Route 17. But locals had another name for it, a name they didn't like to say out loud. They called it Mile 17, because that was where everything happened. And if you asked anyone who had driven through that road at night, they would all tell you the same thing. You don't stop at Mile 17. No matter what you see, no matter what you hear, you keep driving. The first report was filed in 1996, a missing persons case. A young couple on their way back home after a late dinner. Their car was later found abandoned on the side of the road. Engine still warm, doors slightly open. No signs of struggle, no blood, no footprints leading away. Just one detail that investigators couldn't explain. The radio inside the car was still on, broadcasting nothing but static. And every few seconds, something that almost sounded like a voice, but not quite human. The case was never solved. And like most things that remain unexplained, it slowly turned into something else. A story, then a rumor, then a warning. Years passed. More people disappeared. Drivers, hitchhikers, even a truck driver who had been working that route for over a decade. Always the same pattern. They were last seen near Mile 17. Their vehicles were found, but they weren't. No bodies, no evidence, no answers. That's when people started talking about him, not as a person, not as a man, but as something else entirely. A presence, a figure that only appeared at night, standing near the road, waiting. They called him the man from Mile 17. Some described him as tall, too tall. Others said he stood completely still, like he wasn't breathing at all. But the detail that showed up in almost every account was his face, or rather, the absence of it. Did you see him? The question was always whispered, never asked directly. And those who claimed they had seen him never described the same thing twice. One said his face looked blurred. Another said it looked like it was shifting, like it couldn't stay in one shape. And one witness, who later refused to speak to anyone ever again, said something far worse. He said, it wasn't that he didn't have a face, it's that he had too many. But the most disturbing part of the legend wasn't how he looked. It was what he did, or what people believed he did. According to the stories, the man from Mile 17 never chased anyone. He never attacked. He never forced anyone to stop. He didn't need to, because if you saw him, you stopped on your own. And that's when it happened. No one knew exactly what happened after that, because no one who stopped was ever seen again. But there were exceptions, rare ones, people who claimed they had seen him and survived. One of them was a woman named Clara Vasquez. She was the only person who ever gave a full statement about what happened that night. And even then, most people believed she was lying, or worse, that she had lost her mind. Clara was driving alone. It was late, past midnight, the kind of hour where the road feels longer than it should, where the silence inside the car becomes uncomfortable. She later said she didn't even realize when she entered Mile 17. There was no sign, no marker, just a feeling, a sudden heaviness in the air. The radio stopped working first, she said during her statement. It didn't turn off, it just stopped, like the sound was being swallowed. Then came the temperature drop, so sudden that her breath became visible inside the car. Her hands tightened around the steering wheel, and that's when she saw him, standing on the side of the road, perfectly still, facing her, At first, I thought it was just a person, she said. Someone who needed help. She slowed down, just a little. Not enough to stop, just enough to look. And that was her mistake. Because when I looked at him, she paused during the interview, her hands shaking, eyes unfocused. He was already looking at me. There was something wrong with the way he stood. Too straight, too still, like he wasn't reacting to the car at all. And then he moved, not toward the car, not away from it, but closer, without taking a single step. Clara couldn't explain it. 1 second he was far from the road. The next, he was right there, right beside her window. She said she didn't remember stopping the car, but when she looked down, her foot was already on the brake. The engine was still running. The headlights were on, but everything else felt silent, too silent. Then came the knocking, 3 slow taps on the glass. She turned her head, slowly, reluctantly, and that's when she saw his face, or what should have been his face. She never described it in detail, not completely, but she said one thing that investigators never forgot. It wasn't a face meant for someone like me to understand. Then he spoke. At least she thought he did, because the sound didn't come from outside the car. It came from inside her head, a voice that didn't belong to her, a voice that asked only one thing. Do you remember me? Clara said she didn't answer. She couldn't. Her body wouldn't move. Her voice wouldn't come out. So he asked again, do you remember what you did? And that's when something inside her mind shifted. Fragments, images, memories she didn't recognize. A road, darkness, someone screaming. Her own hands covered in something she didn't want to identify. No, she whispered. I didn't do anything. The figure didn't move, but the pressure inside her head grew stronger. Everyone says that, the voice replied. And then silence. When Clara opened her eyes again, the road was empty. The man was gone. Her car was still running. The radio was back on, and the clock on the dashboard read 2:17 a.m. She drove away. She didn't stop, not until she reached the nearest gas station. And when she got there, she realized something that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Her hands were shaking, not because of fear, but because they were dirty, covered in something dark, something dried, something that looked like blood. Clara was never able to explain it, and after that night, she refused to ever speak about Mile 17 again. But before she disappeared completely from public life, she said one last thing, something that turned the legend into something far worse. She said, he's not waiting for people. He's waiting for the ones who already forgot. And after that, more people started to disappear. Because if the stories were true, then the man from Mile 17 wasn't just a killer. He was something else. Something that didn't hunt bodies, but memories. And if you ever drove through that road at night and felt like something was watching you, you might already be part of his story. You just don't remember it yet. 3 weeks after Clara Vasquez's statement, something changed. Not in the road, not in the forest, but in the pattern. Until then, the disappearances were random. Different people, different times, no connection. But starting in early 2003, that changed because the people who began disappearing had something in common. They had all driven through Mile 17 before, and more importantly, they had all claimed they saw nothing. Detective Aaron Keller didn't believe in legends. He didn't believe in ghosts, curses, or anything that couldn't be explained with evidence. And Mile 17, to him, It was just another unsolved case buried under bad investigation and worse luck, until the files started landing on his desk. At first, it was just one, a missing persons report, then 2, then 5, all within the same month. Different victims, different lives, but the same detail hidden in each report. Subject previously traveled through County Route 17. Aaron noticed it immediately because patterns were never accidents. He sat in his office late that night, the fluorescent light flickering above him, flipping through photographs of people who no longer existed in any real sense. Faces frozen in time, smiling, unaware, and then gone. He leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. Coincidence, he muttered to himself. But even he didn't believe it. The next morning, he requested access to older files, cases connected to Mile 17. The archives clerk hesitated. "Those cases are messy," she said. "They always are," Aaron replied. She gave him the files anyway. Boxes. Old, dusty, forgotten. And as he started reading, he realized something no one else had noticed. It wasn't just that people disappeared near Mile 17. It was what happened before. Every single survivor report, every person who claimed they had driven through that road and made it out, shared one strange detail. They couldn't remember parts of the drive. Not clearly, not completely. "It's like there's a gap," one report said. "I remember entering the road, and then I was already out." Another, "I don't remember passing Mile 17. I don't remember anything around it." And Clara's statement, the only detailed one, was the worst of all because she didn't just forget. She remembered things that didn't belong to her. Aaron closed the file slowly, his fingers resting on the paper, his mind working through possibilities. Memory loss, hallucination, mass suggestion, all explainable, but something didn't sit right because of the timing. He pulled up the most recent case, a man named Lucas Reed, 34 years old, no criminal record, no history of mental illness. Last seen leaving a gas station just before entering County Route 17. His car was found 2 days later. Engine off, key still in the ignition, driver's door open, and just like the others, no signs of struggle. But there was something new, something that hadn't appeared in previous cases. A message scratched into the inside of the windshield, not from outside, from inside the car. Aaron stared at the crime scene photos. The letters uneven. Desperate. "I remember now." He felt something shift in his chest. Not fear. Not yet, but something close. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the message, about the pattern, about the idea that these people weren't being taken randomly. They were being chosen. The next morning, Aaron made a decision, one that would later be written in the report as unnecessary field involvement. He was going to Mile 17. The road looked normal during the day. Too normal. Sunlight filtered through the trees. Birds could be heard in the distance. The asphalt stretched forward, cracked but intact. There was nothing about it that suggested danger. Nothing that hinted at the stories surrounding it. Aaron stepped out his car and looked around. Quiet, still, just a road, he said under his breath. But something about the air felt off. Not colder, not darker, just heavy. He checked his watch. 1:52 p.m. Plenty of daylight, plenty of time. He got back into the car and started driving. The deeper he went, the quieter it became. The sound of the engine felt louder, the space inside the car tighter. He turned on the radio. Static. He frowned, adjusted the dial. Nothing. just static. He kept driving. And then he saw it, a small, worn-out sign on the side of the road, barely visible, almost hidden by overgrown branches. Mile 17. Aaron slowed down. Something in his chest tightened. Not fear, instinct. He told himself it was nothing, just anticipation. But his grip on the steering wheel grew firmer. And then the radio stopped. Not turn off. Stopped. Silence. Total silence. Aaron blinked. Looked down at the dashboard. Still on. No sound. And that's when he felt it. That same heaviness Clara had described. Like the air itself was pressing against him. He kept driving. Slowly now. And then he saw someone standing on the side of the road. A man, tall, still, facing him. Aaron's first instinct was to slow down. His second was to stop, and for a brief moment, he didn't question it. His foot moved toward the brake, but then something inside him snapped. Training, instinct, something deeper. "No," he said out loud, and he pressed the gas instead. The car surged forward. As he passed the figure, he forced himself not to look, but he failed. Just for a second, he turned his head, and what he saw didn't make sense, because the man wasn't standing still anymore. He was closer, much closer, too close, right beside the car. Without moving, Aaron's breath caught, and then something spoke, not from outside, from inside his head. "Do you remember me?" The words hit him like a shock. His vision blurred. Images flashed. A road, dark, wet, headlights, a figure stepping into the street, a sudden impact, silence. Aaron's hands tightened on the wheel. "No," he whispered, but the voice didn't stop. "You didn't stop." His heart began to race. "I don't." "You left." The images became clearer. A body on the road, not moving. His car, driving away. Aaron's breathing turned uneven. "That's not real," he said. "That's not me." Silence. Then, "Everyone says that." And just like that, it was over. The pressure disappeared. The air felt normal again. Aaron blinked. The road ahead was empty. No man, no figure, nothing. His hands were still gripping the wheel. Tight, too tight. He slowly pulled over, turned off the engine. Silence filled the car. Real silence. He looked down, and that's when he saw it. His hands, shaking, not from fear, but because they were dirty, dark stains across his fingers, under his nails. Something dried, something that shouldn't be there. Aaron stared at them, and for the first time, he wasn't thinking like a detective anymore. He was thinking like someone who had just realized something terrible, something buried, something forgotten, and something that was no longer willing to stay that way. He looked up at the empty road, and for a brief moment, he had the feeling that he wasn't alone, that something was still there, watching, waiting, for him to remember the rest. Aaron Keller didn't report what happened on mile 17. Not that day, not the next one either. At first, he tried to convince himself that it had been stress, sleep deprivation, a combination of too many unsolved cases and not enough rest. His mind, like any other, could fabricate things under pressure. It wasn't impossible. In fact, it was the most logical explanation available to him. But logic started to fall apart the moment he washed his hands. The dark stains disappeared under running water, dissolving as if they had never been there. There was no smell, no residue left behind, no physical evidence that anything had ever touched his skin. And yet, he knew what he had seen. More disturbingly, he knew what he had felt. That night, Aaron sat alone in his apartment, surrounded by files he brought home without authorization. The pages were spread across his table, overlapping, disorganized, something completely unlike him. Usually, his work followed a structure, a method, but this case refused to stay inside any kind of order, because the more he looked into it, the less it behaved like a normal investigation. He focused on survivors. There weren't many, and the ones that existed were inconsistent. Most reports were short, dismissive, filed and forgotten within days. Statements filled with uncertainty, contradictions, and vague descriptions that investigators at the time had quickly labeled as unreliable. People who claimed to remember nothing rarely helped solve anything. But now, those gaps felt intentional. Aaron began reading one report after another, this time not looking for what was there, but for what wasn't. One man claimed he had driven to the road at night, but couldn't recall how long the trip took. A woman insisted she had stopped her car briefly, but had no memory of why. Another described hearing something, though he couldn't describe the sound itself, only the feeling it left behind. And then there was a detail that appeared more often than it should have. Subtle, easy to ignore. Every single one of them had checked the time after leaving the road, and almost all of them reported the same thing. 2:17 a.m. Aaron leaned back in his chair, staring at the wall as that number settled in his mind. It wasn't coincidence anymore. It couldn't be. He reached for Clara Vasquez's statement again, reading it slowly, carefully this time. Not as a report, but as a testimony, a warning. The clock read 2:17 a.m. He closed the file. There was something about that time that felt wrong. Not in a supernatural sense. Not yet, but in a way that suggested repetition. Like a loop, like something that kept resetting itself over and over again. And then a thought crossed his mind, one that made him hesitate before acting. What if the people who disappeared weren't random victims? What if they were part of something ongoing? Aaron stood up abruptly and walked to his desk, pulling open a drawer where he kept older case indexes. If there was a pattern, it wouldn't just be in recent years. It would go further back, much further. Hours passed. Names, dates, locations. At first, nothing connected cleanly. Then something did. A case from 1987. Another from 1972. One even older, poorly documented, from the early 1950s. All near the same road. All unsolved. But what caught his attention wasn't just the disappear. It was what came after. Because in a few rare cases, the missing people had reappeared. Days later, sometimes weeks. Alive, Aaron felt a chill run through him as he opened the first of those reports. The man's name was Thomas Hale. He had gone missing in 1987, found 8 days later, walking along a highway nearly 50 miles away from mile 17, disoriented, confused, unable to explain where he had been. Standard case. At least, that's what it looked like at first, until Aaron reached the final page. A note added weeks after the man's return. Subject deceased. Cause of death, self-inflicted. Aaron frowned. He flipped to the attached psychological evaluation, and that's when the pattern deepened. Thomas Hale hadn't remembered anything when he was found. Nothing about mile 17. Nothing about the time he was missing. But days later, his memory came back. All at once, the report described a sudden shift in behavior. Severe distress, paranoia, insomnia, repeated statements about something watching, and not being alone anymore. And then one sentence that had been underlined in the original document. He said he remembered what he did. Aaron felt his chest tighten. Memory, not what happened to him. Followed by rapid psychological collapse. He turned to the next case. And in every single case, disappearance, it ended the same way. Return, death, memory loss. Aaron sat there in silence, the weight of the realization slowly settling in. This wasn't just about people being taken. It was about something being returned. Something that came back with them. Or worse, something that had always been there, waiting. He ran a hand over his face, exhaling slowly. This doesn't make sense, he muttered. But deep down, it did. In a way, he didn't want to accept. Because now, the voice he had heard on the road echoed again in his mind. You didn't stop. He closed his eyes, and for a brief moment, he saw it again. The road, the rain, the figure, and his car moving forward, not stopping. Aaron opened his eyes abruptly, his breath uneven. No, he said firmly, as if saying out loud could make it true. That's not real. But the doubt had already taken root, and doubt was enough. That same night, Aaron made a decision, not as a detective, but as someone who needed answers. He was going back, not during the day, at night at 2:17, because whatever was happening on that road wasn't random. It followed rules, and if he could understand those rules, maybe he could stop it, or at least understand what it wanted. As he gathered his keys and prepared to leave, one final thought crossed his mind, a question he hadn't asked himself before. What if the reason people couldn't remember was because they weren't supposed to? And what if remembering was the worst part of all? Aaron didn't tell anyone where he was going. There was no official report, no partner, no backup. If something went wrong, no one would even know where to start looking. And maybe that was intentional. The city lights disappeared behind him as he drove deeper into the rural highway. The road ahead stretched endlessly into darkness, broken only by the reach of his headlights. The silence inside the car felt heavier this time, more oppressive, as if it already knew where he was going. He checked the time. 2:03 a.m. Too early. He slowed the car slightly, letting the seconds pass. His fingers tapped against the steering wheel, not out of impatience, but tension. The kind that builds quietly, almost unnoticed, until it's already too late. When the radio turned to static, he didn't react. He expected it. "All right," he whispered. "Let's not pretend this is normal." The road narrowed as he approached the familiar stretch. The trees seemed closer now, their shadows stretching unnaturally across the asphalt, swallowing the edges of the path. Then he saw it. The sign, Mile 17. The moment his headlights passed over it, something shifted. Not outside, inside. The air in the car thickened again, pressing against his chest, making each breath feel just slightly heavier than the last. The temperature dropped, not drastically, but enough for him to notice, enough for his body to react before his mind could deny it. He checked the clock again. 2:16 a.m. 1 minute. Aaron's grip tightened around the steering wheel. "This is where it happens," he said quietly, and then the clock changed. 2:17. Silence. Total silence. Even the engine. Aaron blinked. The car was still moving, but he couldn't hear it. That's when he saw her, standing in the middle of the road. Not a shadow, not a figure. A person, a woman. She didn't move, didn't react, didn't even flinch as the headlights hit her directly. Aaron's instincts kicked, and immediately he slammed the brakes. The car stopped just inches away from her. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she slowly raised her hands, not in fear, not to protect herself, but to show him something. Her palms. Empty. I didn't do it. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Aaron frowned, his heart still racing. What? I didn't do it, she repeated, stepping slightly closer to the car. I just remembered. Something about the way she said that made his chest tighten. Aaron opened the door slowly, stepping out of the car without taking his eyes off her. The silence outside was worse. No wind, no insects, nothing, just them and the road. Who are you, he asked. She hesitated, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she didn't trust it. Marina, she said finally. Marina Duarte. Aaron nodded slowly. I'm Detective Aaron Keller. Her expression changed slightly. Recognition. I know, she said. That made him pause. How? She tilted her head slightly, studying him in a way that felt uncomfortable. You've been here before. Aaron's stomach dropped. No, he said quickly. This is my second time. Marina shook her head, slowly. No, she said again. Not like that. She took another step closer. You've been here before. The way she emphasized the word made something shift in his mind. A flicker, a memory trying to surface. Aaron clenched his jaw. I don't know what you're talking about. Marina looked at him for a long moment, and then she asked, what do you remember? Aaron hesitated, because the truth was, he wasn't sure anymore. I remember driving, he said. I remember seeing someone on the road. Marina nodded. Everyone does. And then he continued, his voice slower now. I remember something talking to me. Her expression darkened. What did it say? Aaron swallowed. It asked if I remembered. Silence. Marina closed her eyes briefly, as if confirming something she already knew. It always starts like that, she said quietly. Aaron took a step closer. What is this place? She opened her eyes again, and for the first time, there was fear in them. It's not a place, she said. It's a pattern. Aaron frowned. What does that mean? Marina looked around, as if expecting something to appear at any moment. It doesn't take people, she continued. It shows them something. What? She hesitated. The truth. Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. That doesn't make any sense. It does, she replied, but not the way you think. She stepped even closer now, lowering her voice. It doesn't show you something new. It shows you something you already did. Aaron froze. No. Marina didn't react. You saw it, didn't you? She said. He didn't answer. You saw something you didn't recognize. His breathing slowed, but it felt real. His hands tightened slightly. Because it was real. Aaron shook his head. That's not possible. Marina's voice softened. That's what I said too. Silence stretched between them, and then Aaron asked a question he had been avoiding since the moment he saw her. How are you still here? Marina looked at him, and for a moment, she didn't answer. Then she said, I didn't leave. Aaron frowned. What? I've been here for 3 nights. That hit him harder than anything else she had said. That's impossible. I thought so too, she replied. She glanced toward the darkness behind them. I tried to drive away. What happened? She hesitated. I did. Aaron waited. And then I was back here. Silence. The road doesn't let you leave, she said. Not until it's done. Aaron felt something shift again. A realization forming slowly. What does it want? Marina looked at him, and this time there was no hesitation. It wants you to remember. The air grew heavier, and somewhere in the distance, something moved.
Road trip.
Not loud, not fast, but enough. Enough for both of them to notice. Marina turned her head slowly toward the darkness. "It's close," she whispered. Aaron felt it too now. That presence, that pressure, watching, waiting, and for the first time, he understood something that hadn't made sense before. The people who disappeared, they didn't vanish. They stayed. The sound didn't come again, but it didn't need to. Aaron and Marina stood in silence, both staring into darkness beyond the road, where the trees formed a wall so dense it almost looked solid. Whatever had moved was no longer moving, or maybe it never had. Marina took a slow step backward. "We don't have much time," she whispered. Aaron frowned. "Time for what?" "For it to start again." That word lingered in the air. Again, Aaron turned toward her. "What happens when it starts?" Marina hesitated, not because she didn't want to answer, but because she didn't know how. "It gets clearer," she said finally. Aaron felt his chest tighten. "What does—" She looked directly at him now. The memories. Silence. And then it happened. Not outside. Inside. Aaron's vision blurred slightly, like something had shifted just behind his eyes. The road in front of him didn't disappear, but something else overlapped it. Another image. Faint. Unstable. A street. Wet pavement. Rain falling hard enough to distort everything. Headlights cutting through the darkness. And then, a figure, standing in the middle of the road. Aaron staggered slightly, grabbing the side of his car for support. "No," he muttered. Marina stepped closer. "It's happening, isn't it?" He didn't answer, because now it was clearer. The sound of rain, the hum of the engine, the slight vibration of the steering wheel under his hands. And then, impact, a sudden violent jolt. Aaron gasped, his body reacting as if it just happened again. His breathing became uneven. "I didn't," he started, but the words collapsed before he could finish them, because he remembered something else. He remembered not stopping. The car kept moving. The rear view mirror. Something on the road behind him. Not moving. Aaron squeezed his eyes shut. No, but the memory didn't fade. It expanded, and now he could hear it. A sound, not from the road, from inside the car. Breathing, not his. Aaron opened his eyes abruptly. The road a mile 17 snapped back into place around him. The forest, the silence, Marina standing in front of him. But something had changed, because now he believed it. "I hit someone," he said quietly. The words felt heavy. "Real." Marina didn't react with surprise, only with a kind of quiet understanding. "It shows you what you buried," she said. Aaron looked at his hands. They were clean, but he could still feel it. The impact, the weight of it. "Why now?" he asked. "Why show me this now?" Marina's expression darkened. "Because you're close." "To what?" She hesitated. "To remembering everything." A cold wave ran through him. "That's not possible," he said. "There's nothing else." Marina shook her head slowly. "There's always more." And then she froze. Aaron noticed it immediately. "What is it?" Marina didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed behind him. Aaron turned slowly. At first, he saw nothing, just the road, the trees, the darkness pressing in from all sides. Then something shifted, not moving, but changing, like a shape slowly separating itself from the shadows. A figure, tall, unnaturally still, standing just beyond the reach of the headlights. Aaron's heart began to pound. "That's him," Marina whispered. "The man from mile 17. He didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't react. But something about his presence felt overwhelming, like standing too close to something that shouldn't exist. Aaron tried to focus on his face, but couldn't, not because it was hidden, but because it didn't stay the same. For a fraction of a second, it looked like a normal face. Then it changed. Another and another, like something was cycling through identities that didn't belong to it. Marina's voice trembled slightly. "Don't look at him for too long." Aaron didn't respond, because something else was happening. The longer he stared, the more familiar the faces became. One of them made his chest tighten, because he recognized it, not from the road, from somewhere else, from a memory he hadn't reached yet. "Why do I know that face?" he whispered. Marina stepped back. "That's not the question you should be asking." "Then what is—" Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "Why does it know yours?" Silence. The figure didn't move. But something else did. The air. It grew heavier, thicker, and then the voice returned. Inside his head. Stronger now. Clearer. "You left him there." Aaron's body froze. The words hit deeper this time, because now they had context. The memory, the road, the impact. "You didn't even check." Aaron shook his head. "I didn't know." "You knew." The pressure inside his mind increased. Images flooded in again. But now, they didn't stop. The road, the body, and then something new. Movement. The figure on the ground, moving, still alive, reaching out. Aaron's breath caught. "No!" But the voice continued. You saw him move. His vision blurred again. The rear view mirror. The body shifting, still breathing. And him driving away. "I panicked," Aaron whispered. "You chose." Silence. Then a final image. The face of the person on the road. Clear now. Recognizable. And not a stranger. Aaron staggered backward because he knew him. He knew him. Not from that night. From before. Someone he had met. Someone he had spoken to. Someone who trusted him. Aaron's voice broke. "No." Marina grabbed his arm. "Aaron, you need to stop." But it was too late, because now the memory wasn't just showing him what happened. It was forcing him to feel it. The guilt, the decision, the moment he chose to leave. And the worst part was that he understood why. Because stopping would have meant consequences, questions, responsibility. So he didn't. And now, something else remembered for him. The figure in the darkness took a step forward. This time, it moved, slowly, deliberately, and as it did, the faces stopped shifting, settling into one. The same face Aaron had just remembered. The man he left behind. Standing, alive, but not human anymore. Marina's voice trembled. "It doesn't take people. It turns them." Aaron couldn't look away, because now he understood the final piece. The ones who disappeared. They didn't vanish. They stayed, and eventually they became part of it. The figure tilted its head slightly, watching him, recognizing him. And then it spoke, not in his head, but out loud. "You remember now." Aaron felt something inside him collapse, because it wasn't a question. It was confirmation. Aaron couldn't move. The figure stood in front of him now, not rushing, not threatening, just waiting, wearing the face of the man he left behind. But there was something wrong. The eyes. They weren't angry. They weren't even accusing. They were empty, And that was worse. Marina stepped back slowly, her breathing uneven. "It's done," she whispered. Aaron didn't respond, because something inside him had already begun to fall apart. The memory wasn't fading anymore. It was locking into place. Every detail, every second, the rain, the road, the impact, and the choice. His choice. "I didn't mean to," he said, his voice barely audible. The figure tilted its head. "You didn't stop." Aaron's throat tightened. "I was scared." Silence. Then, "So was I." The voice wasn't angry. That made it worse. Aaron took a step back. "I can fix this," he said quickly. "I can report it. I can—" "No." The word cut through the air instantly. "You already made your decision." The pressure around them increased. The air thickened. The darkness seemed closer now. Marina grabbed Aaron's arm. "You need to leave. Now." Aaron looked at her. "What about you?" Her expression didn't change. "I told you. I didn't leave." Something about the way she said it felt final. Aaron turned toward the car. For a moment, he hesitated, because a thought had just crossed his mind. Something small, but wrong. "When did you get here?" he asked suddenly. Marina froze. "What?" "You said 3 nights," Aaron continued. She nodded slowly. "I did." Aaron frowned, but there were no reports. Silence. "No missing person case," he said. "No calls. No record of you being here." Marina didn't answer. She just stared at him. And then something changed. Subtle, but undeniable. Her expression shifted. Not into fear, not into anger, but into something else. Recognition. Aaron's chest tightened. "Marina?" he said slowly. She tilted her head, the same way the figure had. "You don't remember me either?" The world seemed to tilt. Aaron took a step back. "No." But the memory was already coming. Not forced this time. Not pulled. It surfaced on its own. A different night. Not raining. Clear sky. Same road. Mile 17. A car stopped on the side. A woman standing near it, talking to him. Aaron's breath caught. "You," he whispered. Marina smiled slightly, a sad smile. "You told me it was safe." The memory hit harder now. He remembered. She had called for help, said her car broke down, said she didn't feel safe alone. And him, he had somewhere to be. He didn't want the delay. Didn't want the complication. So he reassured her, told her someone would come, told her she'd be fine. And then he left. Aaron shook his head. "No." Marina's eyes didn't leave his. "You didn't even check." The same words, the same tone, everything connected. Aaron staggered backward. "That night," he said, his voice breaking, "I thought—" "You thought it wasn't your problem." Silence. The weight of it settled completely now. 2 nights, 2 choices, 2 people, and the same decision. Walk away. Aaron turned slowly. The figure was closer now, watching, waiting, not for revenge, for completion. "You don't take people," Aaron whispered. The realization fully formed. "You finish them." The air pulsed. The voice returned. Not just one now. Multiple. Layered. "You leave them. You forget them. You move on." Aaron dropped to his knees. "But we don't." Marina stepped back into the darkness. Not afraid. Accepting. Because now she understood. She wasn't trapped. She was part of it. Just like the others. Just like him. Aaron looked up. "No," he whispered. But it was already too late. Because now He remembered everything. Not just them, others, small moments, times he chose convenience over responsibility, silence over action, distance over involvement, all of it. And the road remembered too. The figure stepped closer, close enough now that Aaron could see it clearly, not just one face, all of them, layered, watching him. You're not here to leave, the voice said. Aaron's breathing slowed, because something inside him had stopped resisting. Then why am I here, he asked. Silence. And then, the answer, you never left. Everything stopped. The road, the air, the sound, and then darkness. Total, absolute. Morning came quietly. A car passed through mile 17. The driver didn't slow down, didn't notice anything unusual, just another empty road. But for a brief moment, something appeared in the distance, a figure, standing at the edge of the trees, still, watching, waiting, and beside it, another one. If you're driving late at night, and your clock stops at 2:17, don't stop, don't look, and whatever you do, don't convince yourself that it's not your problem.
If you have a strange experience or a story you can't explain, leave it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories waiting to be told. Until the next video, stay safe.